Alright, hello everybody. Today I'm going to be making a short tutorial on how to set up custom layouts for Daz Studio. I'll be showcasing to you how to add these icons on the side and also how to change where these things are positioned. There'll be a longer tutorial on my Patreon, of course, and I will have a link in the description for the Patreon for those of you who want to get more in depth with setting up layouts. So as you can see over here, I set it up in such a way that I've got the Genesis 8 female and the male over here because I'm somebody who occasionally likes to work with these figures. So I figured it's a lot faster to have them there rather than have to go to Smart Content Library and then looking through there or the content library. So the way you add things there is that you can click on a product that you want to use. Let's say I want second instance. I can just click over here, create custom action. It says custom action over there. Window, workspace, customize. Right, so I can customize the layout that's there. I've got the toolbars here, all kinds of wonderful stuff is here. Just remove this. Let's say what I want to add is the second instance script. Right. Let's click on apply. And accept. Now the second instance script is up here. But the second instance script, it doesn't have an icon. If it had an icon, you'd be seeing an icon over there. And I can just click it from there. I can use another example with a figure. Let's say I go here. Let's say I decide that I want to use a Genesis 8 female character for this example. We want to use the pixie, right? Create custom action, accept, window, workspace, customize, toolbars, custom, here. Now I can just drag and drop this here, apply, and accept. Then if I want to save this layout, either to use this later on this same computer or even like to distribute to other people, I can just click over here, save layout as. I'm just going to call this layout used for first example. And then I can pick whether I want the custom actions from this, or you can even pick the custom actions from a different layout when saving. Same applies with menus, toolbars. I'm just going to leave it on custom now. The description is just going to write this is the first one for example purposes. Then to change from one layout to another, on workspace, select layout. Now we get all kinds of layouts here. Get stuff like Hollywood Boulevard, self-service. This first section is for the layouts that come with Daz Studio, such as city limits, open roads, city limits light. Then these are the ones that come, these are extra ones that are other layouts that also come with Daz Studio. Same applies with this one. These ones are mostly meant for like when you now want to mimic the layouts of other software, such as 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, Unity, Unreal Engine type of feel. Then this is row section 1, section 2, section 3. This one over here, this is where your layouts show up, the ones that you made. So this is our layout. Then this is another layout that I made for the sake of rigging. As you can see, it's got this stuff over here. This is when I'm editing geometry. And by default, I've got my tool settings set to geometry editor for this specific layout. And I usually like to put the render settings button over here just so that whenever I need to check the render settings, I just click on this button. That's just a personal preference. You can set this however you like. The thing about these tabs over here, you can close some panes if you want. You can undock some of these panes, move them about to wherever you want. Or you can close them entirely. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with your own panes. You can close this. I can do whatever I want. Then when it's now time to save, I can just go workspace, save layout as. Also drag to make these parts either larger or smaller, which I think is pretty cool. Same with this over here. Let me just quickly hop into another layout. It's this other layout that I made. Most of my layouts are mostly made with rigging in mind. And this one that we started off with. I even put like cars over there. So let's go to a layout that most people probably start off with, the city limits lights layout. Yeah, this is what it normally looks like. Usually I prefer to close some of the stuff. I don't really use face transfer, so I usually just close it. But if you like using face transfer, you can just leave it as it is. Personally, I like having my parameters tab set on the side here. Closing, I like to put and same with surfaces, I usually like to have my surfaces here. Draw settings, I usually put that all the way down because I don't use that as much. Personally, I rarely use the simulation settings, so I usually close that. Install tab is nice. Smart content library. Usually prefer having this on texture shaded by default. Let me extend this. Create custom action over here. Now we've got a custom action for the male figure and custom action for the female figure. Workspace, customize layout. Here are the customs that we put over here. Now I can just put this down here and here. Now, personally, I don't usually use the help and browser widget, so usually I just remove that. You can keep that if you like. I also tend to remove this and this because I don't usually use those. Draw settings, I also rarely use that. Tool settings, that's fine. Render settings, I don't usually like having it in that position. I usually like placing it somewhere else. Then we can click apply to see a preview of what we've done. Then if we don't like the way we've set things, we can just press cancel. And when we press cancel, it just goes back to the way it was. So let's go Window, Workspace, Customize, Toolbars. Now we're showing all sorts of stuff here. So yeah, I'm going to remove this draw settings over here. Tool settings, I'll keep that there. I rarely use spot render. I usually remove this, this, Render settings, as I'm sure as most of you saw, I usually prefer to have this up, way up, near open, save and merge. I rarely use merge, so I usually just remove that item. And then where merge used to be, I usually just put render settings. What export save, new camera. I rarely use the point light. I usually use the distant light for most of my renders, so I usually just remove these over here. Line, keyboard navigation. Then over here, these tools, sometimes I just use the keyboard shortcuts instead of some of these tools. So surface selection, I usually just remove that, but you can keep that there if you like. Activate pose, I usually remove that. I usually remove this. Animate 2, I usually remove this. DJ Navigator, I also tend to remove that. Node selection, I also tend to remove that as well when I'm making my layouts. But when you're making yours, obviously, you can style it however you like. So yeah, by removing the things I don't usually use, I end up with all this space over here on the side that I can do whatever I want with. And usually what I do is I put the developer load of these figures, because the developer loads they're really useful for when you want to make poses, because they load really quickly and they just work well. Yeah, so if you want to add more of these dash thingies, they're called separators. They help separate your content. So you just right click, add separator between the stuff. And then over here, it's just like, the body anatomy parts that go along with the figures. I'm not going to get too in depth with that on this tutorial because this tutorial is for YouTube. I'll get more in depth with these on Patreon, because I can get more in depth with stuff on Patreon. I usually like to put the second instance somewhere in here. Oh yeah, another thing, you can change the icon of these things. Maybe I'll just put this here. You can change the icon to whatever you want. It just so happens to be that in my pictures folder, this is one of the icons that just happens to be there. I could change to any photo I want, but I'll just use this one, even though it's probably not going to scale properly. Yeah, it's all the way over there. There's usually another image that I like to use for that, but I don't want to risk showing anything NSFW on this tutorial video. Then cars, because I like cars, so I usually like to place them there. Maybe you like cars, maybe you don't, who knows. Another figure I usually like to add is the Genesis 9. Where is it? Okay, I'll check for that later. And then over here, these two over here, these are very important. These are pose converters. These are for converting poses from one figure to another. Actually, wait, let me put this somewhere over here. Let me put this here. Wait, I'm gonna put the render in there, put a separator, male and female figures. I'm gonna put them up here. I'm gonna put a separator. I'm also gonna put another separator. What else do I want? So this instance over here. Yeah, this is for posing. This is for transferring generic female poses to Genesis 9. This one's for generic male poses over to Genesis 9. Apply. and accept. Hmm, what else can we change? Viewport, view scene. Because you can really just add whatever pane you want here or change things. Animate 2. If you've got animate, I highly recommend you put the animate 2 constraints over here. Batch converter. Yeah, this is for converting stuff. You may need it, you may not need it, who knows. Let's see. Environment, dynamic loading, lights, parameters, properties. Something else I like to add sometimes, depending on whether I'm thinking of making animations or not on that day. Animate two constraints. Somewhere down here. Property hierarchy is useful. This one over here. Puppeteer. Very, very useful. Puppeteer, and another one that I highly recommend that you add panes power pose. This is one of the most powerful posing tools ever. I usually like to have power pose next to parameters. Is my OBS still recording? Yeah, okay. It seems to be recording. Still getting used to using OBS because there was another software I used to use, but trying to switch over to OBS now. For the sake of making this go faster, I usually just set it to base resolution. Because with the parameters tab, you can move body parts, like that one by one individually. With the power pose, you can move larger parts of the figure all collectively, and it moves like really, really well. That's why I usually like having power pose here. So if I want to move like grouped parts of the body, I use power pose. Then if I want to move some of the individual parts or change the scaling, that's where I use either the parameter tab or the posing tab. Although to be honest, I usually don't have install over here because I've already installed most of the things I need. I usually close these for my own layouts. So yeah, content, parameters, power pose, surfaces, render settings, draw settings. Puppeteer, put this over here. And some people might be wondering, why have the render settings so low down there? Isn't it going to be inconvenient when you now decide you want to render? Because you now have to scroll the way down. Well, that's where this comes in. Because if I just click this render settings button, let's say I'm clicking on cartoon library. If I just click here, it gets me to jump from there all the way down to here. Now, if you're someone who makes poses, right, this tip is going to be very valuable to you. So normally when you want to mirror part of a pose, let's say you want to mirror the hand pose of this thing, right? Maybe you've got like a sort of clenched fist type pose. Normally what you do is you click on the left color, you right click, select children, then you click over here, then you click symmetry, then from left to right, then you press accept, then it symmetrizes. Right, that's what you normally do. But something that you can do to make life a lot easier and faster for you, go on customize, menu, main menu bar, tools, right? Scroll down parameters. I can look for the parameters that, let's see, flash integral. I want to change the icon to something. Okay, I'll admit these are weird icons to use. Clear icon, right? Yeah, so this clear figure pose. That's something that you frequently use. Right. Add separator. Add separator. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some of the parameter settings that we frequently use over to this side to save us time when we're doing stuff like making poses, editing, and whatnot. So if we scroll down, you notice here, symmetry is here. It's one of the tools that we use a lot. Let's see, picture transforms, select morph, so figures. We want to find the one that's, still selected item pose. This is also very useful when you want to select the individual part instead of a whole figure. Summarize, wait, pose, power pose, puppeteer. Puppeteer is really cool. I'll show you people how puppeteer works real quickly. Let me see if I can pause this while I get something. Alright, I think it's resumed. Okay. If we scroll down, right, scroll down up until scene view. We want this one. So select children. This is going to be helpful. Select all objects. Clear selection. That's also going to be very, very helpful. I think this is more than enough. Now, if you press apply, you're going to notice on one hand, we have all this stuff, right? But there's a little problem. One big, big problem. I don't know if you've noticed. Okay. So let's say we wanted to do what we did last time, right? Where we've moved the arm or even a leg or anything that can be symmetrized. We've moved it and I don't know, we've made a pose where we move some of the fingers or whatever. Right. Then we want to mirror this to the other side. So normally we click here and we click select children, then we click here, then we click symmetry left to right, right? That's what you normally do. That's kind of time consuming. What you could do instead is like you click and then you use the select children from here, then just press symmetry here. It takes way less time, it's way faster if you've got stuff there. But the problem that you'll notice is that some of the stuff is now accessible through a click on a second menu instead of just being over here. The way we can fix that is by going Window, Workspace, Customize, Toolbars. We can add a custom widget, but that may be a little too taxing and time consuming for some people. So what we'll instead do is we'll add icons to some of these. So we're gonna go over here, scene view. We want the one for select children, clear selection, move item, remove item. Okay, so for this next part, we're going to need some icons. So I just created a simple folder over here. I just called it for the tutorial. These are the icons that we're going to be using. I think we can actually get a few better icons. Just say faces. Wait. I need to do this without showing my history. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna call this pixels faces. Cute hamster faces. Or we could look up, I don't know, something else. Let's look for ones that don't have copyright. I'm trying to avoid things that have like AI and stuff. Okay, let's see. Save image as. Whoop. Okay, yeah, for the tutorial. Of course, you can use any sort of image you want, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to use cute hamster images. Um, Another cute hamster image. Okay, so we're going to change the icons of these. Then we're going to drag and drop them here. So let's move over here, move these, move these. So for select children, change icon. Okay, some of the images that we downloaded are not showing up, right? That's a problem. Now, what you can do is the image that's not showing up is this one, right? So open this in a photo editor or anything, and then just like export it into a format that's compatible. Now, one of the easiest ones that you can use, you can just use Paint, or you could use Photoshop, or you can use some other software. But we're just gonna go save as PNG, give the directory. Okay. Now it shows up because the image before was in a format that could not be handled by Daz Studio for some reason. So for the select children, we're just going to use cute image 1, drag it there, apply. Now you'll notice instead of showing long text, it shows an icon. An icon for that. If we used a bigger icon, it would have it would have been like a similar size to the stuff, but we didn't. So anyways, we need select children. Yes, selection. We can just keep clear selection as it is, although it's going to look a bit annoying. Symmetry is the one that we got to change. We've got to be aware of the most. Select children symmetry. Restore selected item pose. Change icon to this. Right, so now we can try to, let's say we've moved this, I don't know, like this. Let's say we've also moved the leg. We've moved the leg maybe like this. Whatever, we're just going to make a random pose just for the sake of example's sake. This is a weird pose, I know, but it's just for demonstratory purposes. It's not like a finished pose. So I can click this, right? So we want right shoulder and right thigh. Now, yeah. So I clicked on that one. I held the control button, clicked on the other one. Then I pressed this over here, which is now our select children icon. As you can see, I've selected the children of both the arm and the leg, right? Now we need this one, the symmetry. We gave it the second hamster image for the symmetry. Now we can just click on right to left. Look at that. It has symmetrized and made one of the weirdest poses I've ever made. But this is just for example's sake. It's not, an actual finished pose I would ever try to sell to anyone. You can just really bend that leg however we feel like. So children symmetrize left to right. And we can just go crazy with how we're symmetrizing this stuff. Again, this is just for example purposes. Obviously, in a production ready environment, you would, take this thing more seriously. Yeah. So normally, if you want to restore selected item pose, click over here. Now check this out. Because we changed the icon, even when we click on part of the figure, right? Can you see how the icon is changed? Even over here, the icon is changed. So it's affecting the whole of Daz Studio. Wherever this restore selected item pose shows up, this icon is going to show up. For ours, we just simply put the Spider-Man web swing. Again, you can put whatever sort of icon you want or whatever sort of icon you like. This is the second instance script. This is what I use to make multiple instances of Daz Studio at the same time, such that I can make poses, screen record, render, and do whatever I want all at the same time. Because by default, Daz Studio doesn't let you make second instances. In the second instance script, it is a free script that is on the Daz Studio website. You can go find it in the forums in your own spare time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is how you make layouts. Something else that I almost forgot. This main menu bar over here. All sorts of stuff is here, but you can actually take things to another level. You can make a section for frequently used characters, right? Or call this whatever you want. Maybe you just call it characters or something. Now, then you can have another part for like cars I like or whatever. I don't know. It's up to you to call it whatever you like. I'm just gonna put these cars over here because I like these Ghost Rider cars. Frequently used figures. Normally this way you put like the figures that you like, the male, female, whatever else. I'm just gonna put this here. I don't like having this part over there, so I'm gonna move it below the help section. I'll move it somewhere here. Something to note, you can also create a submenu, Lambo type, Lamborghini type, where you can make Ferrari type, whatever you want really. It's up to you to decide what goes into your submenu. Yeah, so now when I click on cars I like, it shows these icons. Lambo type, it shows the Lambo. You can just click on that. Yeah, there we go. There's the car. Just like that, we've got a man in a weird pose, and we've got a car in our scene. It doesn't really make sense that anyone would pose like this while they're on a car, but they are just like that. And we can also move this however we like. I'll just leave this over here. Frequently used characters. You can also get your frequently used characters from there. It's up to you to do whatever you want. And then when you've decided that you've customized it as much as you like, you can just save it. I'm just going to save this as for tutorial. Second example on YouTube free. Just a free layout example. These toolbars and stuff, I'm gonna leave them custom. If I wanted to, I could actually take from other stuff, the actions, menus, layouts, toolbars. Let's accept. Something else that we can do, because you save the layout, you can also update and merge menus if you want. You don't have to update and merge menus, but whatever. Off-screen pane tabs, off-screen screen tools, enable activity bars. You can say show tab icons if you prefer having the stuff in icon view, or show tab with text and icons. Personally, I just like to have it like this, but some people prefer icons, some people prefer text, some people like text with icons. It's really up to you to decide what you want there for your workspace layout. Some people like the lesson strip. I'm not really going to be using the lesson strip anytime soon. You can lock docking and undocking, orient tabs along the top like that. That's an option. Personally, I don't really like it. You can enable activity bar, disable activity bar. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the free tutorial. The paid tutorial is gonna have more in-depth stuff that's gonna be more suited. Like there'll be one for character rigging layouts, one for posing layouts, one for layouts like if you want to do studio production, like for photography scenes with cars or animals or gens or creating games. There's going to be various layouts that are going to be made on the Patreon, and I also have files that will be downloadable of some of the layouts I make there. Anyways, that's been the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it.